This is Conscious Coffee, where you always have a seat at the table. All right, hello everybody, and welcome back to Conscious Coffee, another episode with my best friend Sharon, where we are trying to bridge the gap between humanity in the subject of religion and spirituality, obviously. Yeah, and so for this episode, we just kind of went through and gathered some questions that we thought would be pretty thought-provoking between the two of us, and hopefully thought-provoking for you to help you go inward and really try and figure out your own beliefs and not just ones that were fed to you. Right, Sharon?
Right. Because your personal relationship with whatever higher power you have is more important than anything that anyone could feed to you. Obviously, it's nice to share and it's nice to get feedback on your spiritual journey. But what really matters is your personal relationship with the higher power.
Yes, absolutely. And not shaming others or belittling others, and remaining open-hearted, open-minded, and listening with open ears. And that is my mission with this podcast originally, and mine and Sharon's shared mission in doing these episodes together. To set the tone, again, as I did in the previous podcast, we will start by taking a collective sip of coffee, tea, whatever your drink of choice is, just to help create a moment of unity together through all the division in this world. So, Sharon, grab your drink and let's take a sip together. I got my low caffeine nighttime coffee as we are recording here at night. So,
can I give you a gargle?
If that will make you happy, yes, please give us a gargle. You're great.
Extra deep sip. Refreshing.
My organic Italian low caffeine coffee. All right, so I think we should start with Sharon. I had sent you we had obviously sent each other the list of questions that we wanted to go over. And the question I had for Sharon, the first one, was, what were the first spiritual beliefs you remember being taught as a child, and when did you start questioning them?
Yeah, and I really had to think back because I grew up in it, and you don't really think about what you're being told when you're a child. But the earliest memory I have of a spiritual belief being taught to me was I went to a private school, a Christian private school, kindergarten and first. And you know how the teacher will call all the kids to go line up to walk through the halls?
Yeah.
Yeah. So the teacher would do that, and then we would all race to be line leader. Like the four of us would dart over to the door. Then the teacher, in response to us being hyper children, would tell us, the last is first in heaven. Slow down, last is first in heaven. And from a young child's ears, it sounds like, okay, so I'm going to hold up the caboose so that in heaven I get to be line leader for eternity. This is the earliest principle that I have of my faith. And it got filed away as if you're the caboose in a line, then that means that you get to be the leader of the line in heaven. In order for me to answer the question, I had to actually learn and understand what exactly that meant. So I actually went back into the text and read exactly the context of it.
Yeah.
And the context of that saying, last is first in heaven, is actually real. I was 50-50 on whether or not that was actually in the Bible, but it was. Basically, Jesus was sharing a parable about a man who was finding workers for his vineyard. So he went out in the morning and picked up people looking for work, asked them if they wanted to work for him, and he offered them a fair wage to work for him. And then he brought them back to his vineyard to work. And then halfway through the day, he went out again and collected workers. And then at the end of the day, he went out and collected another batch of workers. But at the end of the day, he paid all of them the same. The workers that were there all day were like, why did you pay me the same when the other guys only had to work for an hour, but I had to work all day? What's up with that? That's not fair. And the vineyard owner was basically like, yeah, that is fair because you agreed to the wage that I paid you. Jesus was trying to teach his disciples that the people that are picked last will end up with the greatest reward. I never actually understood that principle at all. All I heard was you should be the caboose so that when you get to heaven, you get to be the line leader. And I realized that it was the answer to the reason I started questioning my faith in the beginning. Because ever since I was a little girl, all I wanted was to be somebody's wife and mother, because I saw that the people who really mattered in my life were the ones who were mothers and wives. And as I got older, because it was such a small community I grew up in, that didn't seem like an option for me. And I started to get really angry with God, and I started making bad decisions. I gave in to loneliness and darkness because I thought I deserved, or I thought I really wanted to have a life of marriage and kids like the rest of the women that I loved in my life. Eventually, it grated on me so deeply that I found peace in being single for the rest of my life. I've actually found tranquility in the idea of dying alone, beyond loneliness. And then it eventually turned into rejection of the notion of a partnership altogether. And if I had learned at that young age that patience is the opportunity for a greater reward, then I probably would have avoided years and years of darkness. Was this principle that I learned when I was a very young child. And as a result, I had to walk through some really dark stuff.
And you found your way back, though, to it, like from the darkness, I guess, in those dark thoughts and being angry with God or source. Like you, through going through that darkness, you found your way back, right? By questioning those things. Am I hearing that right?
Yeah. Yeah, and I actually got closer to God because God was the answer to my loneliness. And I know that you know, or you've had experiences where you felt angry or you felt lonely and you were able to go to Source and have some sort of peace of mind with Source.
Yes, absolutely. And that's because I had learned, kind of like what you had said, that if I don't learn to fulfill that loneliness within myself through building a relationship with myself and being okay with sitting in that darkness and kind of parenting my inner child myself through communication with my higher power, that I wasn't going to have that fulfillment outside of myself with anybody else, because that's where codependency and things like that come in.
Stephanie, I have a question for you.
Yeah.
What does checking in with Source look like to you?
Well, that's a good question, actually, because it looks different for everybody, right?
Mm-hmm.
I would say checking in with Source for me is about having that, that quiet honesty with myself and being able to really sit in silence. And I ask questions. Definitely big on talking with the angels too, because they have been my guiding force through a lot, especially when I was struggling with that religious trauma of even wanting to talk to God, or, because I think I was pretty angry with God, or viewed God as this, like we had talked about, like the almighty smiter who's super judgmental and will damn you if you make any mistakes or sins. Yeah, it's just really about getting really quiet and sometimes not even, it's an open dialogue, like I'll be like, okay.
I love that.
Thank you. Yeah. It's like, am I acting, like a big question And this is not like a question I ask like God or source, really. I ask myself, I'm like, am I acting, or was I acting from a place of fear or love in that interaction or that situation, whatever it is. Because, you have like those encounters or interactions where you leave it just feeling like drained, or kind of yucky, or like questioning how you handled it. Kind of, I don't know, I've had plenty of interactions where I felt like embarrassed essentially after I left them, because I'm like, was I acting from my higher self or my lower self, or like from the ego, And so definitely being able to like sit in silence and have kind of that dialogue with my higher self and with source or the angels, whatever it be in that moment. And also being able to like be radically honest with myself too, because if I didn't just act from a place of love, that means I kind of made a mistake, right? And because that's not how I want to act. I want to carry my highest self for the highest good of myself and the highest good of the collective through the world, and show up in that way, which obviously no one's perfect and I'm not perfect. And, I have perfectionist issues real bad sometimes.
Don't we all?
Yeah, it used to be paralyzing for me, but at least I've really gotten past that, but yeah, and really checking in with how I feel in situations or with interactions or with, even just around people, because we've talked about how if we're acting from a place of fear or ego or judgment or, just any of those things, that's not God or source. That is our lower self or our ego, or our fight or flight response, whatever it may be. And so, that's where the radical honesty comes in, and accountability, because if I was not acting from a place of love, then I need to fix it. It means that there's something I need to look at, which is good. I mean, that's a growth opportunity. Or meditating. And sometimes I've found like meditating isn't just like sitting with your legs crossed and, the and like being, like any of that. It doesn't have to be that. Or like doing yoga poses, or meditation can be drawing. It can be journaling. It can be listening to music. It's just whatever brings that sense of peace to you and bringing you into the present moment and not living in the past or the future.
So beautiful.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, so I hope that answers your question. But again, I just want to, reiterate that it doesn't have to look the same for everybody. Like what does it look like for you, Sharon? What does it?
Sometimes if I'm lonely, it's slow dancing with source in this room made of white. When you have that kind of friendship or that relationship where you can just sit near each other or sit next to each other and just enjoy the peace. Sometimes it's just sitting on a park bench with God, and sometimes I'm screaming at it and I'm angry and I'm just letting it all out. Whatever I'm upset about because of something I'm upset about, but it's most certainly a personal relationship. It involves dialogue, like you're saying.
Yeah, I love that. And I love that you brought to light that sometimes it is you essentially just like chewing God out from the inside out. You know what I mean? Like, I get that. Like, I get that. And
sometimes,
yeah. And I think that, like, I mean, I would hope and I believe that source or God understands that, because life be life and sometimes, you know what I mean? And we have those choices that, like we make, or we have those situations that happen to us that are completely out of our control. And sometimes they're just so heavy and they're so hard and so gut-wrenchingly painful. We wonder, or at least I wonder, I'm like, how could you have let that happen? A good example would be like, with my cat being sick. I have been so angry with Source over that because I'm like, she didn't deserve this. For her to have, the lung problems and the kidney problems and, which I wouldn't trade her for the world. We know that. And I'm not complaining by any means. I'm grateful for her, but it is hard, right? And then you wonder, you're like, why is this allowed to even be? Like, why? Especially I think too, when when you're a good person and you're actively choosing to stand in love and stand in truth and your authenticity as much as you can and have integrity, like you wonder, you're like, and not in a victim way, but just in a genuinely honest way of like, why me? Or like, why her, you know, or why them? Like if we have a family member that passes or something like that, we wonder, we're like, how could you let this happen? Like, you know, and it's hard to wrap our heads around, but then that's where I think about soul, because I believe in soul contracts very much so. Do I believe that we do have these predestined like challenges and conflicts and trials and tribulations that we have to overcome for our soul's growth? But it's hard. It's hard to be in the thick of it and experience such a you know, an immense amount of grief or loss or whatever it is. And then you wonder, you're just like, why are you letting this happen? You know, like, but I understand you feeling angry, you know, sometimes with God and screaming at him or, you know, crying at him. Like, I completely understand that. So thank you for bringing that up, because it really shows, again, the duality that we talk about. Of course, you love God, but you also are going to feel angry with God sometimes. And that's okay. And I'm sure Source is okay with that too, you know?
I would say for me, it's a safe place to feel anger.
Yes, Source is that safe space. Yes. No, I like that, Sharon. Yeah, absolutely. Thank you for that perspective.
When I'm angry, it's better to hash it out with the source of everything than it is hashing it out with another person. And guess what? I can walk into that next conversation with a little bit more peace. It hasn't happened since I left middle management, but I'm sure it'll happen again.
Oh, yeah, for sure. Yeah, we all have those moments, you know. I wasn't even thinking about the times that I'm sitting here cussing God out, or like just a few weeks ago, actually probably like 2 months ago, I remember I was walking home from, like, I had just gotten groceries, and I have like this little rolly cart, like rolly bag, you know, like a New York grocery bag on wheels. I kept hitting bumps, and I had another bag on top of it, and it kept just like falling off. And I had like eggs in there and stuff. And I was like, yeah. And then like, I just remember, because I was so stressed out, like Mouse had been to the vet like 5 times that month. And it was a shit show. Right. And I just
crashing out.
Yes. I finally hit a breaking point, I think. And I actually started like cussing at Source and the angels, and I'm like, all right. And because you know like my whole, I have this deep love for humanity, right, that I've developed over the years through my mistakes and my trials and whatever. And I just remember thinking, I'm like, oh, okay, so here I am trying to do all this good, and actually it was kind of like playing the victim for a minute, but I really was like upset. And I was like, oh, okay, so I'm one of the most kind and loving people I know at this point, with probably some of the most like integrity, and I can't even fucking walk home with my groceries without them falling all over the place. Like, can you guys catch me a fucking break or no? You know what I mean? Like, I was so mad, you know, because I just felt like this, like, well, I don't fucking deserve this, you know. And it wasn't about the groceries. Obviously it was not about the groceries. Like, that was just the tip of the iceberg for me, you know, because I had lived with that really gross old man that I had to live with after getting scammed out of that apartment, you know, and I had held the faith and been so strong through all of it. And and then Mouse, you know what I mean? Like, I just felt like last year was just shit show after shit show and trial after tribulation. And I was like, okay, when does Stephanie get a break? Because we're going on 34 years of shit. So when
And then Source has the audacity to go, I won't give you more than you can handle.
Yeah, and I'm like, now, okay, Source, so who the hell can handle? Okay. But I'm also, you know, and I was revert back to the life path 33. I'm like, oh, well, you're a 33. And I remember, actually, if I'm remembering this right, I think I said in that moment when my groceries were falling, I was like, fuck being a 33. I was like, I did not sign up for this shit. But then when I calmed down, I was like, okay, I'm fine. Like, okay, I'm like, really, I think I kind of overreacted. You know, that's life, right? But as long as we return back to center and still, you know, we don't lose the faith completely, just like momentarily. I think that's part of the radical honesty too, is that, yeah, sometimes we're gonna be mad at God. We're gonna be mad at ourselves. We're gonna, maybe have a little pity party for ourselves because we're human, but it's just about always coming back to center and coming back to source and still choosing to take the higher path. Okay, so I hope that kind of answered your question, Sharon. I know I got off topic a little bit, but not really, because that was a really good story, an important story to share, to your point of, having even an angry dialogue with our higher power. I had another question for you.
For me?
Yeah, girl, for you. Do you think that most people choose their religion, or do you think it's something that's inherited? Or how much of it do you think actually comes from personal experience versus cultural conditioning?
That is such a great question. Let me think about that for a second. I believe that people inherit the opportunities in a certain faith, but people still have to choose that faith. Like, in my faith, I've watched people leave the faith more than I've seen people search for it, but I've also seen people leave and come back to it. So cultural conditioning, from what I've seen, only works as much as the person allows it to work. Ooh. Especially with the internet, people aren't cut off from discovering their own truth. They're always going to discover their own truth, I can't imagine, maybe people do inherit a faith that they have no control over whether or not they choose to follow it. And they're stuck in really unfortunate situations where they can't discover their own truth. Yeah. Do you think that happens?
Yeah, I do. And I also think we call that kind of brainwashing a little bit. I'm not going to lie. But yeah, or to the point of what you said, sometimes people they grow up in, say, a household or a really toxic family or environment to where if they were to speak their truth, or, say if even something doesn't resonate with them as true, right? Mm-hmm. That they could possibly be shamed or, highly judged for what they believe in, or even exiled from that community, and then what do we all fear as humans, right? Like rejection. Most of us have a huge fear of rejection, right? Or being abandoned, and that nobody wants to feel that. So if you grow up in a culture or in a household that's super toxic and abusive, or say, you've been left by everyone that you've ever loved. So then you find a community that loves you, or they say they love you, and what just popped in my head was like a cult, what I'm saying? Like, do they really love you? Probably not. You know what I mean? But they want you in their tribe, and because everybody wants people to jump on their bandwagon, not everybody, but people that operate from the ego more so than the higher self, right? Like, want everyone to jump on that bandwagon with them, and they will shame and belittle people who they view are wrong, or don't agree with them. And so, yeah, I think that there are definitely cultures or places or practices that completely shame people into not feeling like they can stand in their truth. But I think people always know their truth, because your soul, like your gut, is not going to let up on that. We have an intuition and a soul and a truth for a reason, and I think that that's just what leads to people living, in severe unrest or depression and things like that, because when you're not living authentically to yourself, to your true beliefs and values, that's going to reflect outwardly, Yeah. Oh, I have a good example for this. We've talked about this before, like communities and different faiths and things like that, or different homes where people shame you for being gay, or being part of the LGBTQ plus whatever community, You know, like people will literally go their whole lives not being authentic to themselves because they don't think it's okay. Like they don't want to feel the rejection of telling someone, you know, that they're gay or that they're a lesbian or whatever, you know? And
That's so sad. I hope that doesn't happen as frequently these days.
yeah, I don't think it's as much of a thing these days. Again, I mean, I don't know. I know I struggled with it, but that was, you know, I grew up in the 90s. So like I told you, we still had dial up internet and the brick phones. And like, I remember I had a rotary phone, like the, the dial phone on my wall, you know, so like times have definitely changed, but I mean, you can still see it. You can see it in the media. You can see it all over the place where it's still not completely accepted. You know, I think people just more so shut their mouths about it now if they don't, you know, if they don't agree, but there's still a lot of people who are actively against it, you know. But when you grow up in a household like that or something, like the last thing a child or a teenager or anybody wants is to be shamed or rejected by their parents or the people that they love the most, you know. And so when you grow up in, you know, say a religion that's not okay with it or anything like that, you know, you end up not actually living your truth, and that creates a deep unrest like in your soul, you know. And
Right.
yeah, so I think it's still very present, and I think that too we've been conditioned, I'm out of that loop, but that people have been conditioned so much to just kind of follow the herd now, you know. That yeah, they don't even take a second to question it. And this is where I talk about the power of the pause, you know, like pausing and thinking about like, does this resonate as true for me? You know, or like in those
Yeah, and holding space for the beach ball.
Yeah.
Because it's different perspectives.
Yes.
You just gotta find your community that has the same perspective of the beach ball. But that doesn't mean that it's a different beach ball. It's just a different perspective.
Absolutely. And I want to make a note, like just to speak to the listeners right now. I want to let you know, because I have lived through this, okay, that your actual people that are meant for you, they will accept you wholeheartedly, and they will love you for every single part of you. Whether they agree with it or don't, they will love you no matter what. And they will not shame you. And they will not reject you if you are showing up authentically. And if they do, then they are not your people. And that is one of the biggest lessons I have had to learn in this lifetime so far. Because
I second that.
yes.
That is truth.
Yes. We've seen that, right, Sharon? Like we have seen that play out.
Yes.
You know, we've been
I see that all the time.
Yeah, and we've been that, you know, just to speak from experience in this way, like we have been that for each other. Yeah.
I met so many Christians. I've met so many atheists, agnostics, and I've never met anybody who was more understanding and accepting as Stephanie. And you have a pagan background.
Ooh,
So
yes,
the
I
fact
do.
that people end up being pagan and they're the ones that hold space for her faith, that should tell you that it doesn't matter where they come from.
Oh, that was an act.
Are you connected to source? Are you able to tap into compassion and the love for truth?
Yeah.
That's the people you're looking for. You're not looking for somebody who believes the same things you do, who talks the same way you do. They're not always your people either.
Because again, lip service is a thing. You know, people can say anything. Actions are what matter. The way people show up for you and show up in your life, show up to your basketball games like we've talked about. That's what matters. You got to walk the walk. And if your people will show up. I'm really happy that you brought up that pagan thing, because I just want to side note this, that one of the biggest rules in like paganism, and I still don't like label myself as really anything like that, but that is, if we were going to put a label to what Stephanie, like what category I would fall under, Paganism is
Yeah.
100%, like, absolutely, it would be that, but one of the
Yeah.
biggest rules of that is harm none. And that is a spiritual practice that worships like Gaia, the earth, and many different gods and goddesses for their important parts and roles that they have all played, and which is, I love that, because this will be another episode. We'll get more into that at another time, but it's about acceptance and authenticity. It all boils back to that, and using your own personal power to better your life and the lives of others around you.
I don't identify as Christian anymore, but in the Christian faith, there is love your neighbor as you love yourself. And I love the duality of that too, because you're both instructed to love your neighbor and love yourself. And I love that you connect with that too. But
Yeah.
for sure, no judgment. The judgment is left up to God, and that translates to your faith as karma. The
Right.
universe will always bring negative energy back to you if you're putting it out.
Exactly. Yeah. So you call it, like, to you, it's that only God can judge. And to me, yes, it's called karma. It's, whatever you put out by the laws of the universe, it is going to come back to you, which
Yes,
is why
yeah.
we should all mind our P's and Q's and don't be an asshole. Carry love and kindness
Okay.
as much as you can, wherever you go, as often as you can.
Speaking of spreading loving kindness, my boyfriend had the idea of creating a Discord server so that if there's anyone out there who is struggling to find their own truth, or they're struggling to find a safe space where they can talk about their own truth with the intention of finding common ground. Because if there's any negativity, or if there are people who are trolling, we're just gonna knock them out. We got a Discord server with 3 moderators. My job is super easy. I just sit in a cubicle all day and answer calls. So you bet your bottom dollar that if you're spreading negativity on there, you're gonna get booted. So, but all the information for that will be somewhere. We're kind of figuring that out right now, probably in the description somewhere.
Yeah, we'll put it in the
Or we'll put a
description.
plug at the end.
Yeah, we'll put it in the description.
We're looking for beautiful hearts that can have conversations and find common ground between all sorts of different walks of life.
Yeah, and even, or to add to that, anyone who honestly just, if you're searching and you don't know about what your beliefs are, just anything like that. We want it to be a safe space, and I want to accentuate a safe space because the world already has enough hate and judgment and fear-mongering that it will not be allowed. We want to be a support for all of you and people who are feeling lost and really don't know where their beliefs stand. And by no means are we here to influence your beliefs, but absolutely be here for kind of like, a sounding board and just another resource, I guess. And I am a coach, so very good at listening and helping people find their truth and getting to the bottom of what it means for them to live an authentic life. And I love that your boyfriend came up with that idea, Sharon. And do you see,
Yeah.
this is a good example too. I thought about it, like how what we're doing is really bringing people together already. And you can see that on the
Yeah.
social media that is happening. Like, I can't tell you how many comments we've had on the videos that you clip from here, and people are just like, they're say thank you for that message. I needed that, or I love this.
Yeah.
Thank you so much. And you know what I love too is when people say I love you and like they don't know me, but they still are like, I love you. And I'm like, oh my
Yeah.
gosh, I love you. Like, you don't even know. And like, that's true, you guys. Like, I want you all to know I love you all so much. I have a deep love for every single person, even the ones that I don't agree with, that I wouldn't say that I necessarily like. I love everybody. And that's because I really have a deep belief in humanity and where we all come from and our potential. And I just know that a lot of times when people are acting in that, we call it a trauma response or fight or flight mode or a lower vibrational or operating from the ego, a lot of times they haven't lived an easy life. or that's what they've been shown.
Yeah.
And conditioning plays a big role. I mean, now obviously it doesn't, not to excuse anybody, it's a choice at a certain point, right? Because you got to educate yourself and you got to take the steps. But that's the platform we want to offer to, in my long-winded way of bringing this back around. If we want to get anywhere in this world and help heal a division, that's exactly what we have to do, is we have to show up with empathy and love and kindness and with an open heart and an open mind and open ears, and practice, active listening to understand, not to respond. That's a big one. So yeah.
Yeah, and if you just need someone to talk to, Stephanie is amazing to talk to, and I would love to talk to people if they needed a safe space to share their truths.
Talking with both of us and not just me helps offer people different perspectives, because you've lived a very different life than me. Did you have anything else you wanted to add to this, Sharon, before we sign off here?
No, I just thought this is going to be a nightmare to edit.
Sick. But I believe in you so much. You can totally leave that part.
Don't worry, I'll make it
That's
shiny.
Yeah, you should absolutely. Well, all right. I just want to say thank you to everybody for showing up and for being here with us, showing us your support, and we love you so much, each and every one of you. And I hope you all have a really great week ahead of you. We're dropping this on Saturday, so got a big week coming up, and yeah. Oh, and tomorrow's my birthday. Hey, I'm gonna be 35.
Happy birthday.
Yeah, dude, I'm getting so old. Oh my God. All right. Well, we love you all, and thank you so much for joining us here on Conscious Coffee, and be well.